Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you had a wonderful weekend and the weather treated you terrific. We're getting into that summer type season. Well, we got a ton of different little topics to cover here, and we're going to do a tape review on risk reward here for the second half of the call. So I think you'll get a lot out of it. So we'll get started here. Let me see here. 5-minute moneymaker last week is what are the top 6 non-manipulative ways to close a deal according to a recent study? Number 1, present your product in a new way. Do we do that with 5Q, guys? Is the FIA, the way we present the FIA, the same way everybody else presents the FIA? Now, we actually go for what? We emphasize the negatives, not the positives. How about use social proof? How often do we ask during like an FIA presentation, which do most people want? Why do most people want to do this? Add humor. So why do we use ridiculous examples in our either or questions? Why do we make sure we laugh at their humor? Take away any risk. So isn't that what the whole 5Q system is about, is taking away the risk? And that's why it's so palatable to the person in the household who takes care of the family, who's more worried about, not worried about rates of return, but is worried about security, worried about the family. That's what the whole system is about. A lien on the bond you've created and that's what the script, this is what the script we use is about when they ask to take the 21-point checklist home with them. So they're going to want that thing, and we obviously have a script to have them tell us why they don't want to do that. And then offer a discount. This was the one in the study that I disagree with. Guys, do we provide more value than any other advisor out there? I mean, for people with $5 million or below in assets, is there any advisor providing more value than we provide? Right, Raymond? We do provide that value, and we would never offer a discount. Discount is for who? Discount is for people who don't have anything to offer, and we have tons and tons to offer. 5Q tape breakdown, this 1-minute snippet about risk reward, which is what we're going to talk about. We find these 3 things worth working on. I found this site. It's called 16 Personalities, so www.16personalities.com. So it's basically a quiz that you can take, or a test you can take in 10 minutes, which is about 95% accurate as if you take the long one for the Myers-Briggs personality test. So why would you want to do it? Well, I would recommend you do it. I would recommend your staff do it, because here's what you would use that for. It's going to be able to help you understand better other team members, and it's going to help them understand you. So it's going to help you identify and leverage your team's strengths and address your weaknesses. Because generally, guess what, it's human nature. If I'm one type of personality, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to deal with everybody. If I'm not thinking about it, I'm going to naturally deal with everybody the same way I'd want to be dealt with. And it ends up, people want to be dealt with in polar opposite ways. So it's going to help you leverage your team's strengths and address their weaknesses. It's going to ensure you're deploying team members to fit their natural preferences. Having a team member who's not built for something and then trying to force them to do that's going to, all they're going to do is be miserable. And if they're miserable, what's the problem with your staff being miserable? What's the problem with your staff being miserable? See some answers to that. Some of it nobody's answering. So let me ask you this. Clients see it, no enthusiasm, another answer. They leave, none is good. The top CEOs, guess who the top CEOs say their most important person in their company is? And most people would say it's the customer. Guess what? The top CEOs don't think customers are the most important person in the company. They think their team is. Why? Because if their team is great, who will naturally be taken care of? If their team is being treated great, the customer is going to be naturally taken care of. Exactly right. Help identify areas of similarities and differences so you can be informed how to communicate with each other, coming to and agreeing on decisions, developing process, deploying members of the team. So this is a great exercise to do, to spend an afternoon to do this with your team so they better understand you and you better understand them. What happened here? There we go. Oh, went too fast. Okay, so next topic was, thanks Millen for sending this article from the Aushley Institute. How persistent should you be with prospects? New research says affluent prospects classify their financial advisor's sales process. So what they found is 7.3 thought they were too persistent, which makes sense because if you're too persistent, you're going to lose the client. But 22% said they're not persistent. So what is the 3 times most effective way to do it? Be just persistent enough, not too much, not too little. Be the Goldilocks of persistence, the Goldilocks of persistence. So how do we do that with, or how do they recommend doing that? Here's how to be, there are 3 components to being just persistent enough. Number 1, ask questions. So do we do that with the 5Q system? Of course we do. That's a whole system. The whole system based on motivational interviewing is about asking questions. Number 2, listen. Well, if you're asking questions, you're going to listen. And what, for those of you that are doing your 15-minute drill, thank you so much. It will change your life. And what is the 15-minute drill working on? What is the 15-minute drill working on? Not the system. So I got quite a few, like Chris says, open-ended questions. That's one of the things we're doing in the 15-minute drill. Most people are saying GOTS. But what's the purpose? You're right, it is. We're working on GOTS. We're working on GOTS. We're working on GOTS. But what is the reason we're doing GOTS? What are we trying to achieve by being awesome at GOTS? Dave's got it. Keith's got it. It gets them talking more. Every single one of those skills gets the client talking more. So if you think about it, being great at aping them, or agreeing, parroting, or empowering, does that get them to talk more? Does that get you to talk more when you're good at those skills? Of course it does. When you ask questions instead of making statements, does that get them to talk more? When you ask open-ended questions instead of closed-ended questions, does that get them to talk more? When you don't over-talk them or talk over the top of them, does that get them to talk more? Yes. When you laugh at their jokes or their humor, does that get them to talk more? When you apologize for correcting them, or apologize when they give you the wrong answer and for you not asking it clearly, or apologizing when they're confused on what you're talking about, is that getting them to talk more? So every single one of those skills, those GOTS skills, are designed. Yes, that's what we're working on is GOTS, but in the end, the GOTS is trying to get the people to talk more. And if they're talking more, we're going to be better at listening. Now, one of the things it says we should do to be just persistent enough is mini closes. Let's grab a cup of coffee and go over this. Let's get this paperwork out of the way so that we can get started. Does the system ever encourage you to make closes like that? To direct them to let's make a mini close, or let's close. No, that's right, Scott. We do not. All we do is pose questions like, what do you think we should do? When do you think we should do it? Why do you think we should do that? So this one is the only one I don't agree with, because being persistent enough, I think asking enough questions where they come to their own conclusion, that's the perfect being just persistent enough. Missy is we've had an improvement, a little boost in our marketing options. So Missy's going to kind of go through that with you.
Yep, perfect. Thanks. So yeah, we are opening up kind of another option of just being able to use an existing offer that we've had with our pay per person. And as a reminder, and Mike, you'll just have to flip the slides for me. So the pay per person is the $80 per RSVP program. Again, it's a direct mail piece that's going out. So again, there's nothing different with the pay per person. This simply is an add-on that we're going to be talking about. So it's a max of 50 people. And over the max cost, so it's capped at 50. So the most you could pay was the $4,000. Now, of course, you do have to do the cost of food when you do our pay per person. So the add-on that they're offering for us is a social media add-on. So whatever the cost of your pay per person is, you have the option of tacking on an extra $500 to that. So you won't. It doesn't change how the pay per person is priced. It only changes that you're adding on the social media. And what that is you're just adding the social media marketing to the already existing direct mail. So now you have both the direct mail and the social media marketing for Blast for that $500. So the max that you could pay would be $4,500, which is the total if you were to max out more than 50 people and the social media add-on. Now that same program is available in a little bit different pricing structure. We just refer to it as the social media hybrid program. Still, again, the exact same combination of the paper person and the add-on, but what it is it's priced differently. So it's kind of just a different pricing structure. And how that one is priced is strictly off of buying units that attend. And you're going to pay $200 per buying unit that attends to a max of 25 buying units. So the max cost.
Set buying units. So that's different than some other entities out there.
So yeah, buying units would be if a husband and a wife come, that's not $200 for the husband and $200 for the wife. That's $200 for them as a couple. Now, if just John comes by himself, it's still $200. But again, it's who's attending. So different than how the pricing structure works on our already existing paper person, which is by reservation. So they've added the add-on to our existing program, but they've also created it as kind of a standalone hybrid program priced differently, okay? So $200 per buying unit, max of 25 buying units. Again, reminding that this is attending, and so the max cost would be $5,000. Now, food on this program is optional. So unlike our paper person, where we do require it has to be at a restaurant type entity, the social media hybrid program does not require it to be at a restaurant. Okay, so it's just an add-on to our existing program. If you need more information on contacting for our paper person, again, just go to the website underneath events, and the top link is our paper person program. And then you will have all of our contact information there and to get started with that. But again, it's not a different program per se. It's just an add-on to our existing paper person and a different way of pricing it if you wanted to price it based off of attendees. So there you go.
Thanks, Missy.
Yep.
So any questions on that before we let Missy go? Looks like we're good.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to talk about the risk-reward portion of the 21-point checklist today. So on the risk-reward, what we're doing is making people realize that is there anything that only offers rewards, guys? Is there any investment that only offers rewards? No. That's right, Raymond. No. So that's right, Chris. There's not. So when advisors get confused, because when you go to a client and say, hey, do you want a high rate of return? What do they all say? Hey, do you want me to find you a high rate of return? What do they all say? Yeah, let's do that. But when you say, hey, do you want a high rate of return with all the risk that entails, or do you want the highest rate of return with the least amount of risk? Now I want everybody to answer this. Everybody needs to answer this. So if you go to somebody and say, hey, do you want the highest rate of return you can get with all the risk that entails, which means you could make a ton of money or lose a ton of money, or would you rather have the highest rate of return you can get with the least amount of return? What will everybody say, number one or number two? Yeah, the latter. So everybody keep answering. I want everybody to answer that. Come on, guys. I only got about 20% of you answering right now. More. Thank you. So that's what we have to understand with the risk. The analogy I use is this. If I offered you in the playground $1 million if you could walk across this balance beam, how many of you would take me up on that? Yeah, I would hope you all would take me up on that, because what's the worst possible situation? You fall, you step off, and there's no damage done. Now, if we change it and say, now I'll give you $1 million to walk across this I-beam, would some people do that? Sure. Would most people do that? No. I know I sure in the hell wouldn't do it. So there's a difference between risk. I mean, making a lot of money with no risk is different than a lot of risk to make a lot of money. And that's what we have to walk them through with our risk reward. And again, what I want people to understand, I've worn glasses since I was in the 9th grade. So I go to the optician every single year. And does he just throw out 30 pairs of glasses and say, hey, try them on and see if it works, and see which one works best for you? Is that what he does? Or does he just hand me one pair and say, does this work, or does this help you? No. He does what? He says he has goggles, and he says, which is better, one or two? Then he goes, click, click. Which is better, one or two? Which is better, one or two? Click, click. Which is better, one or two? Click, click. So we want to compare. If you're not comparing, if you just say, hey, what do you think about this? That's a really difficult thing for people to get their arms around. But guys, ever since you were in the first grade, or really even kindergarten, or probably even before kindergarten, how are things presented to us? Do you want peas or do you want carrots? Do you want to go out to eat or should we order in? Do you want to? If you've learned from children, if you give them, do you want to go out? I don't know. Do you want to go out or eat in? It's eat. Is that a? Do you want to go out to eat or do you want to go out or stay in? Which one is an easier question to answer? One choice or either or? Yeah, the either or questions is out. And actually, guys, do we use that in our 21-point checklist? What have I told you? When you get to a point where the client isn't getting it, and they're answering they're having difficulty answering the questions, what's the question that we always fall back on to make it easy for them? Either or. Either or, either or, either or. Those are easy questions to answer. So when we're doing the risk reward, we're going to use a comparison. We're going to use a comparison, and some guys are reticent or leery of using this comparison, and we'll discuss that in the end. But guys, you got to use the comparison, and you're going to find that when we listen to this tape, she did not use the comparison. She still got what she wanted, but she's lucky. And when I'm closing $800,000 case, guys, do I want to be lucky? No. I want to lock it in that there's no doubt I'm going to get it. So we're going to go ahead and listen to tape. We're going to listen to it all the way through, and then we're going to, and you're going to see she gets what she needed, but we're going to then listen to how she could have improved it and done it even better. So here we go. Just a second here.
Jump in here because this is too, I think, what you talked about a little bit earlier, Reggie, on just risk versus return. So taking risk is, or if they're trading or doing things, it's okay, but do we want to take more risk for the return, or do we want to get more return for the...
As we get older, we should want to take less, but...
Less risk, or
if the money's coming in more and more, then you can actually take more risk.
So if you take more risk, do you expect more return or less return?
More
return, right? Because if I'm going to take the risk, I want to get more return. So this is a chart that just shows some of where kind of a risk chart. You see down here it just says risk. Standard deviation is another way to measure risk. So if you look here, it says low risk, low return, right? And the more we go here, it's high risk, high return. So if I go up here, it says high return, right? So the further this way we go, the more risk we're taking, and the higher up on here, the more return we're getting, right? So this square here is the benchmark, okay, of the market. So if we kind of draw a line from here, this is saying based on where that is, if you're taking this much risk, you should be getting this much return, right? If you're taking this much risk, you should be getting this much return, right? So when we look at your funds, are they taking more risk? Most of them, one of them is almost right on the benchmark, but are most of them taking more risk?
More risk.
More risk. Now, they're getting maybe a little bit more return than some of the benchmark, but are they getting more return or less return for the risk they're taking?
Less.
Right, because if we need to be above the line in order to get
more.
Now, when you said the older you get, you maybe not want to take as much risk, right? So
we should be back down here.
But if we're taking risk here, where should we, like over here, where should we expect this?
Way up there.
Right, because do we want to take this much risk for that much return? Where do you want to get? So that's one, and then I do have, so that's on some of your mutual funds, and we have the same chart on some of your stocks, okay? And so if we do the same thing, we kind of draw the line through it, it's going to look, you know, you have a couple of them that are, one's right on the line, one's above it, but where are most of them?
Below.
So that means they're taking
more risk but less return on it.
Yes.
Oh.
And if you had, you know, have you ever heard this before or saw these before?
I don't know.
Similar probably to that.
Okay. Now, if you were to see this and they showed it just like this, would you say, okay, I want to be in those funds, or what would you say?
Probably want to change them.
Because do you want to take more risk for the less return, or do you want?
No.
Right. So why would they be, you know,
You want to get the one that's up here.
you want to get the higher ones. So why do you think maybe they wouldn't want you to see these all the time? And again, this is written by what company here did them? Morningstar. Why do we like to look at reports from Morningstar?
Because they don't have anything to.
Yeah, exactly right. They're a third party.
Lose.
They're just telling us the truth. So if, you know, why wouldn't maybe American Funds or Franklin or they want you to see where that they are on risk versus return?
They want to continue using the money.
Yeah, because if you saw it and you make a change, what's going to happen? I mean, if you decide I don't want to be invested with you because of this risk, what might happen with?
They lose their
commissions.
They lose their commissions. So, and is it affecting them if you're taking more risk versus return, or is it really affecting?
Yeah.
So
they're still going to get the commission.
Yeah. So if you knew it, would you want to take that risk for that return, or would you think you'd want to
switch and
do something? So that's kind of my, you know, concerns on the risk versus reward. And then the last thing we want to talk a little bit about is diversity.
Okay, so we want them to say, I wouldn't have invested in this and he wouldn't have made the money he did on me. So did she get that? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being she nailed it, 1 being she completely whiffed, what would you guys say she got on that? We're getting everywhere from 3 to a 9. Lots of 6s and 7s, and that's where I would say is a 6 or a 7. So Jeff, what would you say before we go in and look at, listen to it more carefully? What would you say about this tape, Jeff?
Well, it's strange because it's what a lot of you do. It almost sounds right. It almost sounds like she did it right, but she didn't. I mean, the telltale is at the end. What does she say is what's the key takeaway? Well, you don't want to be taking that kind of risk. The key takeaway is really he hid this on purpose, and that gets muddled in this. So, in some ways it sounds right, but it's not right. It could be better.
Yeah. So they realize now. In the middle of that script, Jeff, did they say that he would make more money on that?
Yep, they did.
Yes, but it was where? In the middle.
In the middle.
And that's where Jeff said it sounded right, but it was muddled. It was muddled, which means, what do they remember, guys? The stuff at the middle or the stuff at the end? So the moral of the story, does it go in the middle or does it go in the end? Okay, everybody's saying at the end. So that's the problem here. Is they when she left this topic, they had Jeff, can we agree they had a general idea that things weren't right?
Yep,
but
absolutely.
But were they crystal clear on what wasn't right, whether it was the advisor or the fact that they were taking too much risk for return?
Yeah, I think they're not clear on that. I think, if anything, my guess is they would think, well, we're taking too much risk.
And that's what I would guess too. So let's tear this at first. But you know what? She still got what she wanted. Were they on board? Can you tell how well do you think she did previously in the tape? Based on the way they're answering here, how well do you think she did previously in the tape? Were they getting the idea that their situation was not tenable? Yeah, she's doing very well up to this point, and that's why she's getting what she needs, even though she's not doing it perfectly. So, and that's the great thing. That's the great thing and the bad thing about the 21-point checklist. The bad thing about the 21-point checklist is it's so powerful, you don't have to be great at it. So people will stop or get lazy with it. But guess when you find out you needed that extra skill, when you needed that extra half a second of speed, when you needed that extra 6 inches of height, guess when you learned that? Because you didn't train well enough to get that half second of speed. You didn't train well to get that 6 inches of height. Guess when that's right, the big cases. The big cases. It's when you lose that $2.5 million case. And you should crap. And we listen to the tape and say, you know what, you're about a 7 here. And you had the ability to be a 10, but you were satisfied with a 7 because it was closing most of the cases. But guys, in today's world, easy or hard to fill out paperwork? Is the paperwork getting easier or harder? It's a pain, right? It's a big pain. So, does it take you any more work to fill out an app for $2.5 million as it does for $250,000? you don't want to lose the 2.5 because you rested on your laurels. And there's, like I've said this again, I can't say it enough. In the 18 years, at no time have we had more guys know the 21-point checklist than know it right now. But so many of you guys are at a 7, and you could be at a 10. You could be at a 10. You have the skills to be at a 10, and 7's giving you lots of success. But stretch a little bit more. Get out of your comfort zone and learn it just a little bit more. Put a couple of hours into your a couple of times a week into your calendar to learn more or to learn it better. So let's go back and break this down a little bit closer here. So here we go.
Jump in here because this is too, I think, what you talked about a little bit earlier, Reggie, on just risk versus return. So taking risk is, or if they're trading or doing things, it's okay. But do we want to take more risk for the return, or do we want to get more return for the?
As we get older, we should want to take less, but
less risk, or
if the money's coming in more and more, then you can actually take more risk.
So if you take more risk, do you expect more return or less return?
More
return, right? Because if I'm going to take the risk,
So she's asking good questions so far. He did disagree with her. Did she correct him, or did she go along with him and then ask a more clarifying question and got him to say what she wanted to say? So she did a very, very good job right there. Does anybody miss what I'm talking about there? He didn't give her the answer she wanted. She didn't argue. She just asked a clarifying question. Does anybody need me to go back and see that again, or did you get that? Okay, everybody got it. Good. Oh, so a few people want to see it again. So here we go. It's worth listening to. So here we go. It's only 30 seconds. So
risk versus return. So taking risk is, or if they're trading or doing things, it's okay. But do we want to take more risk for the return, or do we want to get more return for the?
As we get older, we should want to take less, but
less risk, or
if the money's coming in more and more,
we should want to take less. But as the money's coming in more and more, we can take more risk. He's saying, is that the answer she wanted? No, but she doesn't argue. So what does she do?
You can actually take
more risk. So if you take more risk, do you expect more return or less return?
Now, it was a little bit rough because when she says, so if you take more, could that have been construed as slightly argumentative? Not horrible, but just a little bit. There we go.
risk.
So if you take more risk, do you expect more return or less return?
More
return, right? Because if I'm going to take the risk, I want to get more return.
So again, do you see what she did there? Be careful of asking great questions and then what? Be careful of asking great questions and then what? What did she do there? Answering your own question. So listen to what she does here. He says, yeah, and then she answers it.
More return or less return?
More
return, right? Because if I'm going to take the risk, I want to get more return.
See, if I want to take more risk, I want to get what? He goes, that's right. She goes, more return. Guys, is that right, the answer you're looking for there from the client? No, he should say that. She's asking a good question, or doing the let him finish your sentence, but she didn't let him finish the sentence. She finished it for him. We'll go back a little.
That's right.
More return. So this is a chart that just shows kind of a risk chart. You see down here it just says risk. Standard deviation is another way to measure risk. So if you look here, it says low risk, low return, right? And the more we go here, it's high risk, high return. So if I go up here, it says high return, right? So the further this way we go, the more risk we're taking, and the higher up on here, the more return we're getting, right? So this square.
So how did she do with that? Guys, is this a chart? This is a chart we're very familiar with. Is this a chart that they're familiar with at all? So who has to explain the chart? They have to explain the chart. They should be saying, and is it okay for me to point at this and say, and what does it say here? It says low risk, low reward. Yeah. Now, as we move along here, it says what? Well, high risk, low reward. Yeah, so the further we go along here, the more risk we're taking or the less risk we're taking? or the more risks we're taking. See, they have to explain it. Don't explain it to them. This is old hat to us. This is simple and easy to us. This is a foreign language to them. Does that make sense? They need to explain the chart.
Where here is the benchmark, okay, of the market. So if we kind of draw a line from here, this is saying, based on where that is, if you're taking this much risk, you should be getting.
Do they know what a benchmark is? Most people. Some people would, but most people, they're not going to know. And unless I'm using a term that I know 100% of people are going to understand, then I'm not going to use that term. I'm going to only use terms everybody can understand. Okay.
This much return, right? If you're taking this much risk, you should be getting this much return, right?
See how who's doing the explaining here? He's saying and and she's answering her own questions. I'll back it up a little bit here.
Getting this much return, right? If you're taking this much risk, you should be getting this much return, right? So when we look at your fund,
do we have any clue now? Do we have any clue at this point? And she's well into the script. Do we have any clue at this point that they agree or understand this chart? Yeah, we have no clue. And here's a big one. What's number one on this? Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, there's a couple problems that I always like to point out to guys. The first is the whole point of having the graph, of having the picture, is for them to be able to answer questions. It's an open book test. And so if all you're going to do is explain it to them, it's like when I'm at a presentation and there's a bunch of words on the slide and the guy starts reading them, I'm thinking to myself, I can read. I don't need somebody to read this for me. I get irritated. So they're looking at it. He understands it, but he can read. If anything, they're going to get irritated. The whole reason to have it is for them to be able to look at it and be able to answer questions. You defeat the purpose if you're just going to explain it. The other thing I like to tell people is the problem with him saying, is I know something they don't know. In a few minutes, I'm about to ask some hard questions about their advisor that he's not really going to want to answer. And I'm giving him permission to just say, And if I don't let him say, to those, he's going to wonder, how come it was okay to say, to these, but it's not okay to say, oh, wait a minute. I think I know what's going on here. You want me to say my advisor, I'm not going to do it. Do
you guys get what Jeff's saying there? I want some yeses or nos to this, because this is a huge point that Jeff is making. So yeses or nos? Okay, so we got mostly yeses, but a few nos. So what Jeff is saying is, if I get used to just answering the factoid questions, the building of the case questions, not the moral of the story, but the story itself, just saying yep, yeah, totally get it, yep, But at the end, I then say I'm not, and they answer or yeah, and I say no, that's not good enough. It was good enough for everything else, but right now I want you to actually verbally say that your guy is taking advantage of you. Your guy is disrespecting you. It's okay to say yes to everything else, but right now I want you to say you are disrespecting your guy. What they're going to do is say, oh, I get this whole thing was just about what? Leading to this one point, which is to get me to say that guy is a bad guy. I ain't doing it. Especially baby boomers. Baby boomers are going to say what? Oh, I see what you're doing. I'm not doing it. But if we ask open-ended questions throughout, it just seems like a natural question when we get to the end where they're going to give me a whole answer. But if you're satisfied with yes, yeah, and at the end you want them to verbalize the moral of the story, you're going to get some pushback from some people because they're going to say, oh, I get what you're trying to do. But if you're asking open-ended questions and having a conversation back and forth with them giving complete thoughts, they don't have that knee-jerk reaction of something's changed. It's just simply the same way we've been conducting the conversation throughout the whole script. Does that make sense? So the people who said no, can I get some yays on that? Okay, we got yeses on that. we'll jump back in here. Anything else, Chet, before I jump back in?
No.
Okay, here we go.
So far.
This much return, right? So when we look at your funds, are they taking more risk? Most of them, one of them is almost right on the benchmark, but are most of them taking more risk?
More risk.
More risk. Now, they're getting maybe a little bit more return than some of the benchmark, but are they getting more return or less return for the risk they're taking?
And again, do they even know what they're comparing this against? Do they even know? And that's where all she's saying is you're taking more risk than the benchmark, but they're thinking, I don't even know if I can invest. Do they even have a clue they can invest in the benchmark? Do they understand that's even a possibility? Yeah, they never mentioned the autopilot, right, Mike? She never mentioned the autopilot, and that's so important because if you look at motivational interviewing, if you look at behavioral economics, they need to have a comparison. They need to have a comparison because showing a problem without a solution, guess what? Do you think people get mad or happy when you show them a problem without a solution? Do people get, here's the problem, look at this problem? They get mad, right? They get upset. So you can never just show them the problem. You got to show them the solution as well, okay? They're still going to get mad, but now they're going to get mad because they want that thing they can solve it to. Instead of, if you just show them a problem without a solution, do they get mad at the problem or do they get mad at you? That's the point here. They get mad at me. If I show them a problem without a solution, they get mad at me. If I show them a problem with a solution, then they get mad at the situation. And that's what I want them to be, because the situation is them and their relationship to their current advisor. So here we go.
Above the line in order to get more. Now, when you said the older you maybe not want to take as much risk, right? So
we should be back down here.
But if we're taking risk here, where should we, like over here, where should we expect this? Right, because do we want to take this much risk for that much return? Where do you want to get? So that's one, and then I do have, so that's on some of your mutual funds, and we have the same chart on some of your stocks, okay? And so if we do the same thing, we kind of draw the line through it, it's going to look, you have a couple of them that are, one's right on the line, one's above it, but where are most of them? Below. So that means they're taking
more risk but less return on it.
Yes. And
so she did say that, but again, does she know more risk for less return? Does she know that she has any other option besides that? No.
If you had, have you ever heard this before or saw these before?
I don't know.
Similar, probably, to that.
Okay. Now, if you were to see this and they showed it just like this, would you say, okay, I want to be in those funds, or what would you say?
Probably want to change them.
Because do you want to take more risk for the less return?
She said a very bad word there. What did she say? Did anybody catch it? The client. What did the client say? Bad word. Okay, so let me replay it here. This is, guys, you got to be listening for this kind of language. So here we go. I'm going to see if you can catch the word she used.
Okay. Now, if you were to see this and they showed it just like this, would you say, okay, I want to be in those funds, or what would you say?
Probably want to change them.
There you go. Jerry's got it. Who else got it? Phil's got it. Bonnie's got it. She said probably. That's qualifying language. I see what you're saying. Probably, maybe, could be. Guys, what is she? If she says probably, that means what? There's room for what? There's room for there's room for being wrong, exactly. Yeah, I'd agree, Mike. She does sound a little beaten down. She's not getting angry. She's kind of sounding like dejected. And that, I think, comes from the fact that she doesn't know there's a solution to this. She just knows it's a problem. And if all we know there's a problem but there's no solution, that is depressing.
Do you want to take more risk for the less return, or do you want?
No.
Right. So why would they be,
You want to get the one that's up here.
You want to get the higher ones. So why do you think maybe they wouldn't want you to see these all the time? And again, this is written by what company here did them? Morningstar. Why do we like to look at reports from Morningstar?
Because they don't have anything to.
Yeah.
So she got what she wanted from Morningstar, but that's dangerous. Because what can she, why do we have Morningstar as number one? So before there's anything on the table, before they know that they are taking too much risk for less rates of return as compared to the benchmark, before they know they're getting a bad shake as compared to the autopilot, that's when I want to talk about Morningstar. Now, she's already talked about Morningstar in depth back in the fee section, but it still makes sense to visit it, number one, when I go into the new script of the risk versus reward, just to make sure they understand, to make sure they're still on board that Morningstar is a good piece of information that's to be trusted. This is dangerous doing it here, because if they started to argue with her on Morningstar here, what could she do? She'd be sunk, because everything she'd done up to that point would have been worthless. So here we go.
Right, they're a third party.
Lose.
They're just telling us the truth. So if, I went to maybe American Funds or Franklin, or they want you to see where that they are on risk versus return.
They want to continue using the money.
Yeah, because if you saw it and you make a change, what's going to happen? I mean,
guys, do you want to guess? Who the broker was in this? They're in American Funds and Franklin Funds. Do you want to guess who the broker is on this? What BD? Yep, you got it, Bonnie. Edward Jones. You guys got it. And so who did she attack there, guys? Who did she? I'm sure she didn't attack. Who is she trying to get the client to realize is screwing her? No, she's not. Listen to this again. So a lot of people are saying she's trying to get them to attack Edward D. Jones. No, she's not. Listen to it again. Why are you being funny on me here? Come on.
So if, I went to maybe American Funds or Franklin, or they want you to see where that they are on risk versus return.
They want to continue using the money.
Yeah, because if...
So that's the real problem, guys. Here's the real problem with this script. What's the real problem with the script? She doesn't want to what? She doesn't want the client to what? She doesn't want to be in a situation, that's right. She doesn't want to be in a situation where she's going to be slamming the guy. What she misunderstands is what? Do we ever slam the guy? Do we ever say a bad word about the guy? Do we ever say a bad syllable about the guy? Never, 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 never. So don't be afraid, though, to ask questions where they will slam their own guy. See, that's what the whole problem here. She's so skittish. That's why she doesn't get what she needs at the end. Okay? So do you want me to go through how I would do it? I got about 15 minutes. I'd only use about 10 of them. You want me to do it? Okay, so Jeff, you're going to be my client.
Okay.
Okay. So Jeff, the next thing we want to talk about is risk versus reward. And just like we did for fees, we're going to use the Morningstar. And why did we want to use Morningstar again?
Well, because they're third party.
Yeah, do they really care whether you're invested in fund A, B, C, D, or no fund at all?
No, they don't care.
Yeah, what are they in the business of?
Just giving us information.
Yeah, giving us information. And this is about risk versus reward. So this is a graph which is going to measure, guess what? Risk versus what?
Reward.
You got it, reward. So the risk, the reward is up and down here. So you see, what does it say right here, Jeff?
Low reward.
Low reward. And what does it say up here?
High reward.
So it means the higher we go up, the higher our what is?
The higher our reward.
Yeah, and in this case, reward would be rate of?
Return.
Rate of return. And then this says, what does this say right here?
Low risk.
And this says?
High risk.
So the further we go down here, the more what we're taking?
The more risk.
Yeah, so generally, if we think about it, why do we take risk? Because the more risk we take, we generally get what?
More return.
Yeah, so then if we kind of go straight up here, what do we see? If you take more risk, but you get more return, what is this saying right here?
High risk, high reward.
Yeah, so does that make sense? So there's a little box here, and it's called a benchmark, but what it really is the S&P 500. You familiar with the S&P 500 at all?
Yep.
Yeah, what is that? Do you think that is?
It's like the 500 biggest companies in the United States.
Yeah, that's exactly. You nailed it. It's the 500 biggest companies in the United States. So do you think they're changing? Do you think there's a manager managing that, or do you think they just take the, like you said, 500 biggest companies, they put it in a block, and that's what they kind of use or measure everything against?
No, that's just what they use to measure everything against.
Yeah. So do you think you could actually invest in the S&P 500 if you wanted to?
Well, I guess if you knew the 500 companies, you could do it.
Yeah, and there's actually stock, or there's actually mutual funds, and there's what's called stocks or exchange traded funds that allow you to do that. So if there's if there's no manager managing that, it's just 500 stocks. Guess how much they're going to charge you to do that? A lot or hardly
cheap.
any. If there's not no, it's very cheap.
Hardly any.
It's very cheap. Hardly anything. It's like it can be as low as 0.1% or 0.15% or 0.1%. So that's what we call the benchmark. So if you take down here again, it's what? This graph, right, going to right, left to right, is what?
Risk.
So if you take this much risk, which is what the S&P 500 is, then you get how much return right here. So what did they say over the last 3 years?
Like 10.8.
Yeah, 10.8 over the last 3 years. So this 3-year means half of them were above and half of them were below. But this is the S&P 500. Now, do you think there's investments that have less risk than the S&P 500?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there is. And do you think there's investments that have higher risk than the S&P 500?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes. So if we have a lower risk, where would we be on the lower on this lower scale here? More to the left or to the right of the S&P 500?
We'd be to the left.
To the left, right. And that if we're going to be less risk, we're also going to get what? Less
return.
So that's where this line is drawn. If we have less risk here, now that we're going to have less return. Now, do you think there's only 3 different investments? There's a less risk, less return, S&P 500, and then high risk, high return. Do you think there are a whole bunch of investments along this line?
Oh, I'm sure there are a ton.
Yeah, there are all sorts of investments along this line, but they're all what I call autopilot investments. So why would I call the S&P 500 an autopilot investment?
Oh, because you don't really do anything. You just hold on to it.
Is there any pilot flying this, or is it just it's 500 stocks and that's what it is?
It's 500 stocks. That's what it is.
Yeah, and there's all sorts, and they call that an index. The S&P 500 index, because it's just an index. It's just stocks that they hold. They don't make any changes. It's autopilot, and they have other ones that have a little bit more risk and a higher return, a little bit more risk, higher return. You can take wild and crazy ones, that like put all of your money only in banking stocks, and if banks do well, guess what?
You're going to do well.
But if banks don't do well, you're going to get what?
You're going to get whacked.
Because is there any diversification if you're all in banking stocks?
No.
So that would be an index of banking stocks only. It would be a high risk, high reward. So but the great thing is, if we're in banking stocks, that's all we're in is bank stocks. Guess how much management you need?
Oh, you don't need any, really.
So how much are they going to charge you for it?
Not much, I wouldn't think.
Not much. And the reason I bring that up is this. Let's say that I have, right now in my apartment, I have cable TV, and it's 25 channels, crystal clear, and there's no cost. It's part of my rent. Okay? So how many channels do I have?
25.
And good or bad reception?
Crystal clear, I think you said.
Crystal clear, right. Crystal clear. So then somebody knocks on my door and says, hey, we've got a great deal for you. We're going to give you 10 channels, and it's not going to be very clear, and we'd love to charge you $50 a month for that. What am I going to tell them?
Yeah, forget it. I get more for free.
Yeah, and do I want more for free or less for a higher cost?
No, you want more for free.
What would you call your neighbor if he bought into that, paying $50 for less channels that were crappy reception?
That'd be foolish.
That'd be foolish, wouldn't it? So so I call that the autopilot. This is your cable that costs you nothing with crystal clear reception. Now, when we look at your funds, do these right here, do they look familiar? These names here, Dreyfus, Goldman Sachs, Guggen, and why do they look familiar?
Those are my investments.
Yeah, those are your investments. So when we look at your investments, do you think we want to be above or be below this autopilot? Do we want to be higher return for less risk over in this quadrant, or do we want to be lower return for higher risk in this quadrant or in this section?
No, you want to be lower risk, higher reward.
So in this one right here?
Yep.
Yeah, and why would that be the smart thing to do?
Yeah, because you're making more money.
You're making more money and you're taking less?
Taking less risk.
Yeah, so we want to be above or below this autopilot line, do you think?
We want to be above it.
Because if we're above, we'd be paying, we'd be getting more or less.
We'd be getting more.
So if we're getting more, are we willing to pay more?
Yeah, sure.
I am. Yeah, I'm in. If I'm staying, do I expect if I'm staying at the Waldorf Astoria versus the Motel 8, which one do I expect to pay more for?
The Waldorf.
Yeah, if I'm getting, when we look at your funds though, what do we find? Are you getting more or less than the autopilot?
I'm getting less.
Yeah, because you're taking more risk and getting less what?
Less return.
And are they free? We just went through the fee section. Are these free, or how much are you paying between your costs, your insurance costs, your management costs, and your turnover costs? A lot or a little?
No, we were paying a lot.
So do you mind paying a lot if you're getting a lot?
Not if I'm getting a lot, no.
But what are you getting?
We're getting less.
So you're paying what?
Paying more, getting less.
So why do you think that's happening? Because do you think, remember, this is the average here. This is the mean. Do you think there's a bunch of funds up here too?
I would assume so, yes.
You assume so too. But worst case scenario, if we just stayed on the autopilot, how much would we be paying?
Practically nothing.
As compared to you're paying?
A lot.
So have you ever been shown this graph before?
No, I've never seen it.
Why do you think nobody's ever shown that to you before?
Well, they probably just want me to keep these investments.
And when we say they, who are we talking about?
Oh, my advisor.
So why would he want to keep you to be in these investments or keep these investments?
Because those are the ones he makes the money on.
So, and do we mind paying him?
Not if he's doing a good job, no.
Yeah, but what would you classify this?
Not a very good job.
So you're paying what?
Paying more.
For and getting?
Getting less.
And why did this situation happen?
Well, because he just wants to make sure he continues to make his money.
Without regards to what?
Without regards to how we're doing.
Yeah, and when you say how you're doing, right now you get making more and are you making more and they have less risk, or are you taking a lot more risk and making less?
No, we're taking a lot more risk to get less.
So what would you call that situation?
I'd say that's kind of screwed up.
Kinda?
Yeah, that's screwed up.
Yeah, because how many people, even if I took this to a sixth grader and showed them this chart and said, above this line is good, below this line is bad, how many would get that right?
All of them.
So they'd get it right, you got it right, guess who else would get it right?
Everybody else would get it right.
Yeah, in particular, who else? The person, how did you just happen onto these funds, or how did you get into these funds?
No, those are the ones he recommended.
Yeah, so who else would get it right?
Well, he would get it right too.
So why didn't we get it right?
These are the ones he makes money on.
Sad thing is, guess what? He'd also make money on these too, above. But he's probably making what on these?
He's probably making more.
And I say probably, or that's probably the wrong word to use. Which word should I have yet used?
He is making more.
Yeah. So what do you think we need to do with this?
No, we need to get rid of him. We need to get this fixed.
So that's how I would do it, guys. So was I clear if Jeff understood the chart? Was I clear that Jeff understood this line? And what's the importance of the line, guys? Two things. One is it's a benchmark, but more importantly, it's a benchmark that costs what? Nothing. Nothing to be in. It's free. So why the heck would I want to pay more to get less when I could be paying less to get more? Why? Why would I want to do that? Would anybody in the right world want to pay more to get less, or would they rather pay less to get more? And we use that in everything. We use that in fees. Would you rather pay more to get less or pay less to get more? Interest rate volatility with bonds. Would you rather pay less to get more safety, or would you rather pay more to get less safety? Investment weighting. You want to pay more to get less, or pay less to get more? Do you want a tenure? Do you want to pay more to get a less experience, or would you rather pay less with an S&P 500 to get more return, or a Berkshire Hathaway? Turnover cost. You see, this is all of these are pay more to get less, or would you rather pay less to get more? All of these. This is the central thing you're getting them to say at the end, and this, when they see that they're paying more to get less, when they could have been paying less to get more, how easy is it for them to point their finger at their guy? How clear is it to them? Is it muddled or is it crystal clear? Because why would anybody in the right mind want to pay less to get pay more to get less? So why do advisors not show this option of paying less to get more? Why do everybody answer this? Why are advisors not showing the option to pay less to get more? Because they have a what? Yeah, they lose money. They have a motive to do that, to make more money. So do you get that? So am I clear that, I mean, how is Jeff going to go back to his guy? After that conversation, will Jeff ever go back to his guy? Even just based on that one script, would Jeff ever go back to his guy? No way. Does that make sense? So that's the kind of things, when you've mastered the crib notes and the motive. And did we get the crib notes and the motive nailed right there? You bet. And you're getting the miffed and the gots so that people love you. You're doing your 5-minute money maker, your breakdowns. That's when you're going to get every client to move to you. Guys, do you have any doubt that if you do scripts that way, every client's going to move to you? We've got 60,000 tapes that show that when you do that script that way, they do move to you. Make sense? You guys have a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll talk to you all on Monday. Thanks, everybody.